So this is the view of Michelle. Okay? Just let me know if things fall away. After I'm going to be sitting down, but I can see all you, but you're good. Okay? All right, Michelle. Thank you for waiting.
You are welcome. Hello, everybody, whether I can see you or not. I'm going to just start a little bit with my process. And so if I have a painting like this, usually what I do is I start with a photograph that I've taken, and I come up with a composition, and I put it on a acetate, my sketch. And then I put a grid over that to help me transport this sketch onto my canvas. And you won't see the grid after I take the white piece of paper off, but I'm going to let everybody who's in the room kind of see what that looks like. And that's the finished kind of piece. And then there's another one that I finished up there on the wall as I've been experimenting with not finishing the canvas as I paint. Because as I'm struggling with recovering from Lyme, I am struggling with the time I have at my easel, and by trying to find ways of painting that I'm not putting in as much time has kind of been a goal. And I haven't always been successful at finding a new way to paint, but sometimes it works. One of the first things I do when I start figuring out my palette, and I usually use a limited palette, I'll play with the colors that are in the image and see which colors are going to make sense to use in the painting. And it usually is anywhere from six paint colors to maybe 10 at the most. But usually a small piece, it's only about 6 or 7 colors. So this is kind of my playing with the colors on the background color that I tinted the canvas, and just to see if I can mix the colors that I want. So for the painting I have up here, it's 6 colors, and I just did a simple example of that. The first time I did this painting, it was larger, and it was just on the white canvas, so I didn't tint it. And for the demonstration, I just went back to something I've done before to make it easier to do in front of you. And this is the color choices I have.
What kind of paint do you use?
I use oil paint from Jack Richeson and Company. It's a pure pigment and oil and no fillers, and I really like the butter consistency of it.
It's a pigment they make.
These are paints that are
They
made
make.
in Kimberly.
In Kimberly.
Yes, Kimberly, Wisconsin. Yep. So Jack Richeson and Company, you can go there and find these paints. For this particular image, I've mixed the colors that I know I'm going to be using during the demonstration. I find if I mix them first, then I'm not like trying to save time and use something that I don't have already mixed. So if I'm looking at my image that I took a photo of and know what I'm going to paint in the area of, I mix all of those colors beforehand in a blend, because as I'm painting, I'm blending one section into the next, going from light to dark, bright to high contrast, whatever is needed in that section. And I usually, at the end of the day, when I scrape all my paint, I save little batches of color that I think are going to be used the next time I paint, and then I'm not wasting my paint. And I find it easier to make my grays with something that I've already just kind of mixed the palette colors that were on my palette the day before from. I don't know if you can see that.
How do you save your paint?
How do I save it? This is how I save it.
Just like that.
Just like that.
You don't
So
cover it or
what happens
grind
if I go a week or a month without painting, all I have to do is peel a skin layer off, and then I have fresh paint underneath. I know some people freeze it or do something like that, but as you can see, sometimes I have a lot of paint here in different little batches. The other thing, after I finish a painting, I'm like, oh, I'm never going to use that again. I might use that color to tint the next canvas, if it makes sense. It's just easier to make a gray or a brown when you have all these kind of odd colors. For me, it's very harmonious to make your grays and browns from the colors that you're using versus having a tube that's just black or brown that you're taking white and mixing into it. So this has worked for me. This used to be a gray tone, like a mid-tone gray, but the palette, because of certain colors that I use frequently that are highly pigment or staining colors, my palette has become this color. It's no longer mid-tone, but I've gotten used to it. So I know what this color is going to look like when I bring it up here, and I don't usually have a hard time mixing the exact color I need on this surface anymore. But I know if anybody was teaching you how to paint, they might say, just have a gray palette.
or gray.
And start with a gray mid-tone surface. So you're seeing your colors the same way in both places. I know I don't do that anymore, but that's what I got. Any questions on palette or composition on the canvas?
Yeah. I have a question about, and maybe we covered that, how you choose your base color.
For the canvas?
Yeah.
This one, I did something a little bit more high contrast so that you could see it. On the cow painting that's going around, you're going to see that it's a little bit more subtle because that undertone sketch kind of shows through some of the transparent colors, and I try to avoid that,
Yeah.
depending on what I'm painting. Sometimes it works in my advantage.
Yeah.
Like in here, you're going to see a lot more detail in the petals because of that undertone brown. So as long as you're aware of what you're going to get.
And then what do you use as your vehicle for your paint? Since we're not smelling something here right now.
This is all pure oil paint. I don't use any mediums
You don't use any
while I'm painting. The only thing I might use Signature for is to clean my brushes afterwards. But I also have the brush soap from Jack Richeson and Company that they make at the warehouse. And when I'm done here, I'm just going to dip my brushes in here because it kind of it's got linseed oil in it, and it conditions the brushes and it helps pull the paint out as it's just sitting. So even if I don't wash my brushes till tomorrow morning when I get home, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Don't do that with watercolor. The linseed oil is the water.
No, I won't do that.
Okay, anything else before I just start painting and let you
Is the photograph a piece of another painting? You're just going to focus on that little part? Or is it a photograph of a real sunflower?
This canvas composition is this part of this. The one I did earlier was larger.
Yeah, so this is a piece of another.
Right.
Got
It's
it.
just something I'm familiar painting, so I thought it would be easier for me to demonstrate from.
Your last thing is Richeson, but you get your art supplies from the Richeson store?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Embarrass me.
I can do that because I'm her aunt.
Yes. I have an aunt in the audience today, and I am part of the Richeson family. I married Darren Richeson, who used to be the president of the company before they sold it. And it is no longer part of the Richeson family, so.
That's right, the company sold it.
It did. Deco art, an acrylic paint making company. Yep. Okay, anything else?
But your husband started Richeson.
Jack Richeson
Jack.
started it, and then when my husband finished college, he came on board, and then slowly different family members came on as it grew. And it was a 40-year,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, big deal.
Is he also an artist?
No. None of the Richesons are artists. Yeah. Interesting. But we could do a demonstration on Jack Richeson and how he started the company on a whole different.
Wasn't
Okay.
the first wife that you did something with art? Your first mother-in-law? Didn't she dabble or something?
Ruth enjoyed needling and, yeah, tried to do some things. And Jack actually has some sketches, I think, hanging in his gallery that he tried to do sketches. I think he did a stone sculpture class. So they've tried things over the years.
And Jack's sister is an artist.
Jack's sister?
Is it Connie?
That's my aunt,
Okay.
Connie.
Okay.
Her other end.
Other end. All right.
Okay, so I paint slower than grass grows. So ask all the questions you want while I'm painting and I'll answer them, okay? Usually what I'm trying to do is, like any painter, I'm not painting all over the canvas like a lot do. I'm taking one section at a time because it gives me a place to rest my hand and paint in a section, and usually at the end I just have a section done. But I'm still very focused on areas of contrast, areas where you don't want to draw a lot of attention, but you're going to have your dark area, you're going to have your light areas, you're going to have your areas where you might use complementary colors to have it punch. You have other areas where you want to be in the background, so you're letting things kind of be subdued and not having sharp edges, where other areas where there is high contrast. You're drawing the eye to those as you paint. So all those things are things I'm thinking of as I'm painting and picking the color that I'm blending. But other than that, I am taking one section and just keep blending it into the next, to the next, to the next. And hopefully by the end of my session, I'm ending at a place where I know where to start the next time.
How do the facets work in? Because I see all these facets in your work.
All of these linear patterns that are going on, I try to pick up patterns as I do my sketch, and I also try to extend my lines. And I sometimes will even put these extra linear lines in there because I think they create a place to draw the eye and bring it into the other part of the painting and keep your eye moving around. I like the sense of movement it creates when I'm finished. And I am usually painting at this distance, and until I get up and walk away, I'm not seeing what effect it has from when I'm away from it. But I really like the effect that it has. From far away, I've had people tell me it looks like a photograph. And to me, up close, it's more abstract, and there's a lot going on with the color shifts that you don't really see when you're far away, but it all kind of comes together. So I enjoy it from both far away and up close, but they're very different looking pieces.
Do you listen to music when you paint, or book on tape, or just silence?
I turn the CD on, and my sole intention when I put the music on is, well, to enjoy the music, but to also pay attention to when it ends, to make myself take a break, because otherwise I forget to stop. And sometimes I don't even hear that the music stops. I'm just so into what I'm doing with the color blends that I get lost in what I'm doing. So if I forget you're there, just remind me, okay?
So how long does it usually take for you to paint some of your larger works?
If I could paint every day, some of the 2 foot by 3 foot paintings could take me 3 months. Now it takes me longer, but I'm working smaller now, and I might only paint 2 or 3 times a week. And I really look for days where the sun is shining, because I have a north-facing studio, and it gives me the best lighting to paint from. If I try to paint on a dark day, I usually, with the oil paints, with the sheen, I can't see the color blending as well, and I've just learned to just not do it.
So what about your decision to use oil over acrylic?
The oil dries a lot slower than acrylic, and when you're blending constantly and things are drying fast, you don't have the time to get the nice blend, at least I've found.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I do is I use flat brushes. Everything I'm doing here is getting into little nooks and crannies to bring the color to the next place, to go into the next corner. So when I'm working on a small painting, I'm using pretty small brushes, and it's not until I go into a bigger area where things are not so tight that I can get into a little bit bigger brush.
So was a 1/4 inch a big brush?
For me, yeah. Yeah,
Are you changing colors within that section? Or
So I went from a little bit darker than what was next to it into lighter, and then this is going to go into even lighter. Because this is like the middle of the sunflower, and it's going to start going from the center into brighter petals, but not as bright as this. So every time I go to this palette to pick up color, I'm utilizing that blend that I've made of going from darker to lighter, or lighter to darker,
that direction?
warmer to cooler, or cooler
Okay.
to, yeah. So those blends on my palette are really important to me as I work. And as I come out from this area, I'm like, okay, this petal is coming forward more, so what was a little bit more subdued back here, I'm going to bring out a little bit brighter as it comes out, so that you can see that shift in light. And I think that's what most painters are doing, is kind of capturing the light, how it hits an object. So like, because of that color difference, I don't know if you can see it from back there, but you're starting to see that change.
So your preliminary drawing is delineating the basic shapes, and then you're working your color changes and tones.
Right. It's like a roadmap that I follow.
I was impressed by your grid of the cow and being passed around to make it just a little bit bigger, but then also capture all the proportions just right.
There's some things that change as I do the sketch, but a lot of it stays the same. It's when I put the sketch on the canvas, I'm using a brush, and I can change the size of that brush to make wider shifts. Because as I paint and blend in and out of these areas, I'm kind of just listening to how the paint is laying on the canvas. And it's like, okay, if I do this, what's going to happen? And sometimes I change what I'm doing as I'm painting. But it's like, okay, is the color doing what I wanted it to do? Is it going back? Is it coming forward? Is it showing that light pattern how I want? Is it representing the subject that I'm painting? There's a lot of questions that just kind of going through my head as I'm doing this, but it's hard to explain.
These are canvas panels you're working on?
This is a masonite panel with a linen that is applied to it.
Do you buy it applied or apply it?
I buy it applied. A lot of the times I stretch my own canvas, and I like working on the oil primed linen stretched canvas better than this, but this is just easy for a demonstration to transport. And when I'm working small, sometimes the panels have given me something to play with to see if I want more texture. And the last few years I've just been playing to see how I can make what I do simpler to do, because it's been hard on my body to do this. I can no longer stand at the easel, and I always have to have something to rest my hand on to paint. And this has just kind of been a struggle, but it's still such it brings me so much joy. I couldn't imagine living a life without doing something creative, and I love what happens when I paint in oils in this style, and I've tried to paint different ways and just haven't found that same joy. And that is why I named this exhibit Oh Joy, because I have come to the realization that I can just change things a little bit to make it easier and still enjoy it.
Michelle, since being diagnosed with Lyme's disease, did you have to change the type of paint because of the chemicals?
No, I haven't, just because the oil paint that I'm using doesn't have fillers, and I'm not using the mediums that are considered toxic.
Okay,
So I haven't had to.
cool.
How long, once you have an area done, does it take for it to dry on the canvas?
Certain colors dry faster than others. I would say 3 days is a good amount. Sometimes if I have a lot of white areas, that's a little tacky, and I just try to avoid doing that. So like I said, I kind of plan when I end the painting of that day. It's like, okay, I'm going to finish here. So the next day I paint, I could say, okay, I'm going to start over here and paint over here, and just let that dry more. I can make these choices, and it doesn't affect me that much.
Do you often go over the areas that have been dried to fine tune them?
When I started painting, I used to, at the end of the day, look at it and say, okay, what needs changing? And I'd go back and spend another hour fixing things. Now I don't do that. I just let it finish the piece and then go back and say, okay, what needs fixing? And there might be 3 or 4 areas that I have to go back in. And I've saved myself a lot of time by just doing it at the end and not trying to do it when the paint is wet. And I'm still judging, and I can't really see it as a whole. So that was a saving thing to kind of just say, let go of that perfectionist in you that says you have to have it perfect. You know, that part has to be perfect at the end of each day, and just let it go and see what it's like at the end. Sometimes it all comes together, and it makes sense when you're done with it.
So what about your subject matters? What is your like, I'm sure you've changed subjects over time?
If I painted the same subject all the time, I would get bored to death. So I love painting people who are working with their hands and things in nature. The carousels were like a challenge to me because it made me play with color in a way that I'd never played before. I think some of my earlier work out of college, it was a lot of blues and grays and greens and not a lot of color. And so it was really fun to just kind of dive into that carousel, bright, fun color. And that's why I like to go to the florals, especially in the winter when everything gets gray around Wisconsin. I pick something with a lot of color. Waterfalls have been intriguing to me just to try to play with how to fracture water to make it seem calm or moving or bubbly. That's been just a fun challenge. So I guess to me, if it's not inspiring me because it's fun or challenging, I'm not that interested in it. I don't do commissions. I've tried them, and it's not a lot of fun. So I avoid them.
Michelle,
Yeah.
the waterfalls, moving water.
What was, repeat that, Dennis.
When you're doing waterfalls or representing moving water, one of the things that I've done, and I'm wondering if you do it, I like to do rinses of linseed oil between sessions. I think it tends to add a liquidy kind of appearance, and it ends up sort of thinning some of the edging out. And I sometimes go back, highlight it. I'm just wondering if you use any kind of a medium to make things look wet.
Did you hear all of that? Do you use any kind of medium?
I did hear it. I don't use any medium because when I paint in this style, it's studio work, and I don't want any toxic fumes in my studio.
Okay.
But I have seen other people work like you've described, and they get some beautiful effects. So keep doing what works for you.
I can see defined by the man of the piece of flame.
I didn't hear that.
We didn't hear that.
Well, we can please ourselves, but it's especially good if it pleases somebody else that's kind of the final judge.
Right.
Was there a question?
And I just realized I haven't been recording.
So did somebody write that question? That sounds like a two-meeting conversation to me among us. What is it? Is
Recording
it?
in progress.
I forgot I didn't push record.
Oh no.
Sorry.
all the colors laid out. And then you just move from one to the next with the same brush
Right.
and get that movement and subtle change.
I'll change brushes if there's a need to. If I'm in a dark area, I'm usually using a brush that has dark colors on it. So unless I'm going to something that's going from cool to really warm, I might change brushes for that. But otherwise I have different lighter colors because I started with getting this petal ready
Yeah,
to have the other color meet it. And I'll go back to the lighter brushes when I move back to the yellow.
that makes sense.
If you really want to see what's happening in every little area, you got to come up and see it, though you're not going to see it from back there. So feel free to come up.
You have a lot of patience.
Yes.
I think that's an understatement.
You have a schedule for yourself, a goal, like 3 times a week, 5 times a week?
I used to, when I stopped working, treat painting like a job. And I would go to my easel every day, or I'd have scheduled, okay, I'm going to photograph my work today, I'm going to stretch my canvas today, I'm going to do marketing today. It was like every day there was something I was going to do for my art. Lyme disease kind of changed that. Now I listen to my body, and what I can do, I do. So, like I said, I might only get into my studio to paint maybe 3 times a week, maybe 2, and I just have to accept that whatever my body tells me I can do that day, I can do.
Chris, can you hear us if we have a microphone on?
I can hear you a little, yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, I had a question that I lost, but did it come back on last?
Okay. Have you ever wanted to take up a bigger brush and just go?
Like I said, I have tried to do so many things, to change my style, to paint differently. Working with Jack Richeson and Company as the creative director, I had to do projects that weren't like this. I mean, you were told, here, experiment with these paints, see which ones have the best quality, how do they compare to the competitors. And I used every material. I went to workshops and studied under different people and learned how to paint like them. I could, at that time, paint like just about anybody. And I'm just like, what brings me joy? Do I want to paint like somebody else? Or this always kind of drew me back. It was something the art instructor in college had me the class do a project where you're just fracturing things up and shifting things like the new descending the staircase. And I'm like, I really like that movement, but I don't like how abstract it is. So I came up with this way of sketching with my brush on the canvas and just blending in and out of each area instead of doing these big chunks like the new descending the staircase. I really like what's happening here. It's creating that sense of movement, but it gives me a realistic subject matter. But when I was just the creative director and you had a play, I would do it. You talked about just take a big brush and just swash, swash, swash. What does this, pastel stick do? Does it hold up to this brand? Swash, swash. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Just touch this up and this up, and I had a painting. And it was fun. I used it in ads and just to show kind of color and how the pastel laid down on the different paper surfaces. But it wasn't like, oh, I want to do that all the time. So I understand the fun of it, and I just don't like the outcome as a finished piece as much as I like what I've accomplished here.
Thank you for that explanation.
I know this
Makes
looks
sense.
painful. Because at the end of the day, after I painted, I'm like, oh my God, I need a bath or a massage. So,
Yeah, it's like watching grass grow. You said it.
I learned that.
Do you do plein air?
I did do plein air, and I really enjoyed that because it did make me free up, not be so precise, and get out in nature and see light as it really is, and I miss it. The line really kind of affects your thinking, and when you have to go stand in the tall grass, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I also can't lug my equipment from place to place anymore. So the most time I do is when I'm traveling is get my sketchbook out and not try to paint when I'm.
Do you have other art forms? Are you a photographer? Do you?
Every painting I do is a photograph I've taken. There are a couple exceptions where somebody took a picture of me, but I was in that location observing. I knew exactly how the sun was that day and everything that you feel when you're in a location. And to me, it's amazing when you're traveling and you see that the light is so different in Scotland than it is in Wisconsin, or the mist kind of thing that you see in Ireland, but the million shades of green you see in Ireland, and trying to, do I have that color green to make that paint? So it's been fun to travel and see what nature gives us, and I try to remember what it was like when I'm painting something from that location, from a photograph I took, and just kind of put myself back in there. Yeah, I do miss painting on location.
How does the Lyme disease alter your interior, that part of you that comes out in your paintings? Is it different at all? Having, gone through what you've gone through?
I paint smaller.
I'm thinking composition, maybe. I don't really know the right words. So I'm not a painter, but I know my sculpture it has changed as I went through something. Well, I no longer did this, or I no longer did that, or I'm not, shaping this way or that way. That's the kind of thing I'm like.
Well, it's definitely made me try to look at how I can make it easier. And I've really avoided this kind of public exposure for years, like over a decade. And so it's changed me in that way. I'm not marketing myself as much as I used to because I know I can't fulfill the need for somebody to have something quickly. If I don't have enough work together to put a show together, I won't even submit my work. I'll take years to play with an idea instead of saying, oh, I need something to put in an exhibit. So it's changed my life in that way, but it's,
And the ideas changed, you know, or did you get a shift because of what you've been gone through something pretty darn serious, and that it almost always has to shift of some sort. And I wondered if it showed up in your paintings.
I don't think it showed up in the subject matter at all, or my desire to paint.
Thanks.
Yep. Is it getting to 7 o'clock yet?
Yeah, pretty soon. Would you be willing to walk around the show a little bit with the video going? Or is that too difficult?
I don't mind doing it if somebody has a question they want answered, because I'm not sure what you guys want to know.
I think it would be great to see the work. If we could, should I just walk around
Yes.
with the video camera?
Yeah, when
No?
she's done.
When she's done.
Are you going to be, Colette's going to walk around and get some details of the work as you work here. Okay, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So zoom in close. Thank you.
Michelle, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you explain to the people that might not know what the carousel project is?
Carousel project. The three paintings and carousels. And as a child, I had a lot of time in the hospital, so what I wanted to do with the carousel project is for every painting sold, for every carousel, I want a carousel, another thing to donate to the facility. So, somewhere in the there are some donated reports for science, and there are also protocols, and daycare center, one is recently, this one actually, originally was purchased in the irrigation. So, excited about that. Okay, who drove the longest to get here? That's longer than Green Bay. Green Bay is longer. Yes. Hello, correct. Anybody drive over? Okay. You're in Virginia? Were you the driver? Okay, you did it more. Jane, you keep that one.
May not see all of us, but
You need a